Good morning, everybody. It is 11:01 and I'm going to get started. My name is Nancy Jemison and I serve as the Finance Director for the PAWR Project Office, and I will be hosting today's webinar. As pointed out in yesterday's NSF Spectrum Innovation Initiative presentation, this webinar is being provided as a courtesy to proposers who are preparing proposals for the National Center for Wireless Spectrum Research. The purpose of this webinar is to explain the opportunities for spectrum research that can be done in collaboration with the Platforms for Advanced Wireless Research, or as we call it, the PAWR program. Just a few logistics as we get started. First, I want you to be aware that this session is being recorded. The presentation will be available on the Advanced Wireless website should you or your team need to review the session later. I also want to encourage you as I proceed through the presentation to ask any questions using the Q&A Zoom feature. The PAWR Project Office will review and I will answer any questions that you may have. We may have other members join at the end of the session to answer your questions directly. In this webinar, I will explain the PAWR program, provide a status of each of the PAWR platforms, and provide resources for learning more about the PAWR platforms. The Platforms for Advanced Wireless Research, or PAWR program, was started by the National Science Foundation with the goal to create 4 at-scale testbeds to accelerate fundamental research into wireless networking technologies. With that said, the SII Center will find PAWR platforms most useful for active spectrum use. The PAWR program relies on collaboration among multiple stakeholders, university researchers, local communities, the private sector, and federal agencies. Teams selected for the PAWR program platforms include academic institutions partnered with local municipal leadership to create publicly accessible research networks. Industry consortium members contribute equipment, software, and expertise to the PAWR platforms as part of an ongoing relationship designed to uncover new opportunities for innovation and development. With that said, the PAWR program funds or partners with numerous academic institutions, and the PAWR Project Office expects to collaborate with any academic institution or nonprofit organization that NSF selects as the SII Center. US Ignite and Northeastern University co-lead the PAWR Project Office. The National Science Foundation supports the PAWR program with $50 million in funding, and an industry consortium of leading companies and wireless associations are contributing an additional $50 million in cash and in-kind contributions. The industry partners provide in-kind contributions in cash, equipment, professional services, or technical expertise to the PAWR platforms. Advanced wireless technologies promise to connect people, machines, and infrastructure in new ways. As 5G deployments accelerate, wireless networks will deliver higher capacity and lower latency service, enabling the exchange of enormous amounts of information at near instantaneous speeds. But 5G is just the beginning. Engineers and computer scientists are already investigating technologies beyond 5G, researching new techniques for spectrum sharing, network automation, and the management of complex heterogeneous networks. These technologies will revolutionize communications, but only if they can make the jump from research to practice, a transition that requires large-scale testing, validation, and platforms for collaboration. Given these innovative technologies, I want to suggest again that the SII Center will find the PAWR program most useful for active spectrum use research. While testbed teams focus on design and development of their individual platforms, the PAWR Project Office manages the platform solicitation and selection process, a process nearly identical to the NSF process for the SII Center solicitation. In addition, the PAWR Project Office coordinates PAWR-wide industry consortium partnerships, provides technical integration assistance to the platforms, and ensures effective execution of the platform's construction, deployment, and operation plans. The PAWR Project Office has led the rigorous process for selecting platform teams and sites, and the testbed themselves are designed to follow certain principles. They must be open and programmable at multiple levels, enable reproducible experimentation, and support a diversity of wireless research experiments. While traditional university and private sector labs support advanced research, the PAWR platforms offer a real-world outdoor testing environment to help move research more quickly from theory to practical and commercial application. The PAWR Project Office also works continuously to bring new resources to the program, such as negotiating with the Federal Communications Commission to designate PAWR testbed sites as the first ever innovation zones for spectrum research. Using traditional FCC program licenses, qualified researchers are able to conduct multiple experiments within select spectrum bands across a small, narrowly defined geographic area. For university researchers, the FCC typically reviews these applications individually and approves licenses to the end of campus boundaries. The new innovation zones extend access to a broader area of operation, allowing researchers to experiment in multiple locations and frequencies under a single license award. In other words, an innovation zone license pre-clears bands in general geographic areas, such as the entire region of Salt Lake City or the West Harlem neighborhood of New York City. This slide provides the newly available experimental spectrum at each of these locations. On to the platforms. The shared facilities of each of the platforms, including hardware, software, compute power, and connectivity, is paired with an online remote access system that opens up the testbeds to researchers anywhere in the country. Early research is taking place now on the platforms, with areas of interest including AI-enabled network functions, open source radio access network development, massive MIMO optimization, dynamic spectrum management, and much more. Each platform focuses on select areas of research interest. The PAWR platform covers several square miles in Salt Lake City, Utah, and is a collaboration of the University of Utah, the Renew team at Rice University, the Utah Education and Telehealth Network, and Salt Lake City government. Its research focuses on end-to-end programmability, including open networking and software-defined networking, dynamic spectrum sharing, and fully programmable 32 by 32 massive MIMO arrays. If you'd like to learn more about the PAWR platform, please visit their website. The second platform, Cosmos, is based in the West Harlem neighborhood of New York City and is led by a core team from Rutgers University, Columbia University, and NYU in partnership with the City of New York. Cosmos research targets programmable networks, including innovation in millimeter wave technology, optical backhaul, and dynamic spectrum sharing. If you would like to learn more about the Cosmos platform, please visit their website. The AirPaw platform covers several sites in the Research Triangle area of North Carolina, including areas in the city of Raleigh and the town of Cary. North Carolina State University, in partnership with local municipal leadership, leads AirPaw. The AirPaw research focus is on wireless communications between drones and ground-based systems and dynamic spectrum sharing. The AirPaw platform will be available for experimentation this summer. If you'd like to learn more about the AirPaw platform, please visit their website. A fourth PAWR platform, to be announced in the upcoming months, will support research into rural and agricultural broadband connectivity. The rural testbed will enable experimentation with heterogeneous wireless networking technologies in an effort to decrease the cost and expand the reach of wireless networks in low-density geographic locations. The rural platform will be available for experimentation in mid-2022. PAWR, through its leadership at Northeastern University, inherited the Coliseum as a program asset. Coliseum is the world's largest wireless network emulator and was developed to support DARPA's Spectrum Collaboration Challenge. The Spectrum Collaboration Challenge asks competitors to develop artificial intelligence engines for automatically allocating spectrum resources in sophisticated emulation scenarios. Coliseum, with its 128 programmable radio nodes, hosted these scenarios, and that infrastructure is now housed at Northeastern University's Institute for the Wireless Internet of Things as a resource for PAWR researchers. This timeline reflects when each of the platforms have either gone online or will be made available for initial experimentation. The Cosmos and PAWR platforms are open to researchers and are in various stages of expansion. That means they are currently adding new technologies or expanding their footprint. Similarly, the AirPod platform will be open to the public in mid-2021 and will expand operations in 2022 and 2023. I hope that gives you a broad overview of the PAWR program and the resources that will be available to the SII Center. We're happy to answer any of your questions at this time. Please remember to post them to the Q&A Zoom feature. And should you have any questions following this presentation or as you prepare your proposals, please feel free to reach out to us by email at the info@advancedwireless.org email address. And I am going to open up my screen so that I can see if there are any questions.
Hi, folks. If there are questions, please do submit them through the Q&A box. We have not received questions yet and are happy to answer as needed.
Well, I think my presentation was very thorough.
I see the first one in there, Maury. I think I'll take that one. I'm Joe Cochin, by the way. I'm the program director for PAWR. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I think the the question is, how would the SII Center collaborate with the PPO? And the answer is it's up to the proposers for the SII Center. And so the PAWR program office is standing by and ready to answer questions, to help. Obviously, anybody who is a proposer to the SII Center program can write in a level of participation or partnership with the PAWR project office, however they see fit. So it's really up to proposers to add that in. I will say that the current PAWR project office is slated to wind down starting in 2022. So that is one consideration as you're writing your proposals. But in the meantime, both in terms of sharing information as well as also partnering in terms of allowing access to research platforms for an SII center, the PPO is ready and waiting.
I see we have a second question here. I'll go ahead and take that, and then Joe, you can fill in, or Nancy as needed. Are there any costs associated with access to the PAWR platforms? The way the program is set up currently, half of the time and resources across of these platforms are dedicated to research components and NSF funded programs. The other half is dedicated to the industry consortium partners that are part of the PAWR program. What that means, in effect, is that those resources are now available, and you can request accounts on the operational platforms to be able to do research and schedule resources as they are available. When we start talking about more sophisticated research initiatives or things that may require additional resources or assets on the platforms themselves, that's when there start to be discussions about how, additional funds can be procured, whether or not there are new proposals or new grants to be solicited from various federal agencies and the like. The PAWR PPO the project office is certainly very willing to work with folks who have an interest in a particular research area to discuss what additional resources might need to be procured and possibly what the best ways to go about doing that would be. But for basic research and access to the resources on the PAWR platform, there is an accounting for that within how the PAWR platforms have been created.
Yeah, I'll only add there, Maury, that individual costs in terms of whether they are funded or not for use of each of the platforms is available from each of the platforms itself. And so for NSF funded researchers, there is generally an amount of time and research that's available at the platform level without cost. And then beyond that, there is support that you can request from NSF. As mentioned in the Q&A, there is a Dear Colleague letter available where you can propose funding for research support. If your research requires big changes or configurations at the platform level, that's something you can talk to each individual platform about as you request a slot to do your research. Let's see. Looks like I see one about formal collaborations. To establish formal collaborations, should the teams reach out to the PPO or specific contacts at the site of interest? The PPO won't be forming formal collaborations as the PPO with SII teams. And so you should reach out directly to whomever has the resources you're looking to partner with, and partner with them at the individual level and not at the PAWR programmatic level.
Just to clarify again, there was a question here about the Dear Colleague letter and whether or not that is still accepting applications. That is a rolling process, and I believe a rolling deadline as well.
There was a question about letters of support, and the answer is no, the PPO will not provide letters of support for SII proposers. Let's see. Is there a policy on data or IP ownership developed in the PAWR platforms? That question is from Ramesh. Yes, there is one, and we can make that available. It is, it generally speaking follows guidelines on other NSF funded research. And so it's something that's going to look familiar to you, but we'd be happy to provide that, and we can perhaps post a link on our website or otherwise.
There is also a question here, can SII proposers bring new devices and new capabilities to existing PAWR platforms? And that would that be a question for the PPO or the PI of each PAWR platform? The answer is yes, you can bring new devices and new capabilities, but that in general has to be negotiated through the platform PIs themselves. But there is certainly work in place in the operational platforms to work with researchers to do a bring your own device process.
Are there any other questions? We'll wait just a moment here. I'll also mention, as I think was mentioned in Nancy's presentation, if you have questions for the PPO, please feel free to send them to info@advancedwireless.org. You can also find that link on our website at advancedwireless.org. And as mentioned, the PPO is happy to provide answers to questions or coordinate in some way, and is also happy to provide assistance to proposers, and we plan to partner with whomever is selected in the SII Center, but beyond that have no real role as a PPO in this process. I'll also just make one final note that the some of the individual members or institutions that make up the PAWR Project Office are involved in some aspect of responding to the SII Center as well, but again, not as the PAWR project office and not on behalf of the combined office that is managed separately. The members of the team who are involved in those proposals will not be the ones responding to your specific questions about your proposal, so as to maintain conflict of interest, a strict conflict of interest policy, which is something the PPO has done throughout this process. And so any questions you have that involve specific details about your proposal for the SII Center will be answered by members of the PPO team who are specifically designated for that and not involved in any other discussions about the SII Center proposal or award. And please feel free to send any questions you have about that to the group email box as well, and we'll handle those as they come in. Any other questions? If not, thank you all for joining us today. Thank you to my colleagues, Mari and Nancy, for pulling this together. Thank you to Nancy for giving the presentation, and we look forward to working with you all here sometime soon. Thanks, everyone.